If you think that attraction, respect, and perceived value are a matter of luck, you're screwed. It's not luck, it's not genetics, it's not magic. It's pure psychology. It's perception. And the worst part is that even if you don't notice it, every day you're sending signals that define how others see you. Strong or weak, valuable or irrelevant, leader or follower. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows who you are. But in the first few seconds, before you even open your mouth, they've already decided how much you're worth. They didn't do it consciously. They didn't reason it out. They just felt it. Like when you see a wolf in the wild, and without needing any explanation, you know it's not just any dog. There's something in its posture, in its gaze, in the way it moves. It doesn't beg, it doesn't doubt, it doesn't try to fit in. And precisely because of that, it dominates its environment. Now tell me, what do others feel when they see you? You look around and see guys who barely open their mouths and already have everyone's attention. They're not taller, they're not more handsome, they're not smarter than you, but there's something in their presence that makes the world turn in their favor. And if you don't understand what it is, you'll spend your life wondering why the hell no one takes you seriously, why you're not the kind of person who commands respect without asking for it, why it's so hard for you to attract the right people and filter out the trash. I'm going to tell you the truth. You're sabotaging yourself. You do it every time you doubt, every time you seek approval, every time you give up your power without realizing it. And the worst part is that you're not even aware of it. What you're about to learn is not cheap theory nor recycled advice. These are real psychological triggers that control how others perceive you. They are the same principles that the Stoics used to move with an unshakable presence, the same ones that people who effortlessly dominate interactions apply today. There's no room for weakness here. You're going to understand why some men never beg for attention and others are ignored as if they were old furniture, why some can lose everything and still project power, while others crumble at the slightest adversity. If you apply these 9 principles, you're going to stop being invisible. You're going to stop acting like someone who needs permission to exist. And the best part, you'll do it effortlessly, without forcing anything, because you'll understand how the game really works. But I warn you, if you expect this to be a motivational speech to make you feel good about yourself, you better get out of here right now. This is not a video for the weak. 1. Keep control, never crumble. Imagine you're in the middle of a storm in the ocean. The waves hit with fury, the winds roar, and the sky darkens. But amidst all that chaos, there's a ship that doesn't wobble, that doesn't sink, that stands firm no matter how violent the storm is. That ship is you, or at least it should be. Nothing drives away respect and attraction more than someone who crumbles under the slightest pressure. It doesn't matter how physically strong you are, how intelligent or talented you seem. If you lose control of yourself when things don't go as you want, you've automatically declared yourself weak. Think about the last time you saw someone lose their temper in public. Maybe it was a guy who started yelling at a waiter because his order wasn't right, or someone who exploded on social media because they couldn't handle criticism. How did you perceive them? As someone with power? As someone with presence? No, you saw them as a child throwing a tantrum. Lack of control makes you seem small. The Stoics knew this very well. You can't control the world. You can't control others, but you can control your reaction to any situation. And that's the difference between someone who commands respect and someone who is dismissed without a second thought. Look at the people who really have power, those who dominate interactions with ease. You don't see them desperate. You don't see them reacting exaggeratedly. You see them firm, calm, as if nothing could shake them. And that, in itself, is a magnet. People gravitate towards those who convey stability. On the other hand, those who get upset easily, those who let every little thing make them explode, those who lose their heads over insignificant things, condemn themselves to oblivion. No one respects someone who can't control themselves. Have you ever seen a wolf in the wild? A wolf doesn't bark like an anxious dog. It doesn't make unnecessary noise. It doesn't seek anyone's approval. It moves calmly, with an air of absolute confidence. And because of that, when it enters the scene, its presence is felt. It doesn't need to impose itself with screams. It doesn't need to prove anything. Its control speaks for it. You have to apply the same. When you manage to keep control in tense situations, you're sending a clear message. Nothing shakes me. Nothing dominates me. I am the master of my reality. And that kind of presence is impossible to ignore. 2. Don't beg for approval. Your worth is your own. Imagine a king who walks among his people, but instead of moving with confidence, with his gaze high and the certainty of his authority, he goes asking each person if they believe he is really a good king. He approaches one and says, "Do you think I'm ruling well?" Then to another, "Do you like how I'm handling things?" And so, he continues seeking validation, hoping that someone will confirm his worth. What image does that leave you with? He's not a king. He's a beggar with a crown. That's exactly what you do every time you seek approval. Every time you hope that someone else validates who you are, what you think, what you do. Every time you act with the intention of being accepted instead of simply being. The problem is not wanting to be recognized. The problem is needing it. Look at the people who truly inspire respect. They are not the ones who shout to be heard, nor the ones who change their opinion, depending on the reaction of others. They are those who stand firm, who trust in themselves regardless of external approval, because they understand something that most never learn. Worth is not asked for, it is imposed. If you feel that you constantly have to explain who you are, justify your decisions, or prove to others that you are valuable, you've already lost. Because someone who is truly valuable doesn't need to convince anyone. They just exist, they just act, and the world responds to that. It's like fire. It doesn't need to announce itself. People feel it, see it, recognize it, without having to ask for it. The problem is that most have been trained to seek validation. From a young age, we are taught that we need to be approved by others to have worth, that we should act a certain way to be accepted. And without realizing it, we grow up with the mentality that our worth depends on what others think of us. But that's a trap, because if your worth depends on others, it will never truly be your own. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius said, "The opinion of others is their business, not yours." What others think or say does not change who you are. It does not define your essence. It does not alter your reality unless you allow it. The key is to develop an internal security that doesn't need anyone's validation. It's not about being arrogant, but about knowing that you don't need approval to exist, to move, to make decisions. It's about acting because you decide to, not because you hope someone else will recognize it. Don't explain who you are, show it. Don't try to convince anyone that you're worth it. Just be someone who is worth it. And if someone doesn't see it, if someone doesn't recognize it, let them stay behind. You keep moving forward. Because the moment you stop begging for approval, the moment you stop acting to please, you free yourself. And when you are free, when you own your own worth, you become unbreakable. 3. Don't give away your attention. Make it deserved. Think about this. The most valuable thing you have is not your money, it's not your appearance, not even your time. It's your attention. Because where you put your attention, you put your energy. And what receives your energy grows. But here's the problem. Most people give away their attention as if it were garbage. They hand it over to anyone who sends them a message, who gives them a bit of validation, or who distracts them from their boredom. And when your attention is cheap, you become cheap. Imagine there's a guy at a party who desperately jumps into any conversation, who interrupts, who seeks everyone's approval. How is he perceived? As someone without value, someone who needs external validation to feel good about himself. Now imagine another guy who doesn't try to impress anyone, who chooses who to talk to and when. That's the one who generates interest, because his attention is not available to just anyone. The same happens in any human interaction. Scarcity creates value. If something is available all the time, it becomes insignificant. But if something is hard to get, it automatically gains power. And this applies directly to your attention. When you pay attention to something or someone, you give them power. If you focus on someone who doesn't respect you, you elevate them. If you obsess over what they say about you, you give them control. If you spend the day checking notifications, absorbing content without purpose, you become a slave to distraction. You lose your own power without realizing it. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus said, "What you give your attention to, that will control you." If you put your attention on chaos, you become part of the chaos. If you put it on discipline, on constant improvement, on the things that really matter, your life takes a completely different direction. Your attention is what defines your value. If you give it away indiscriminately, you become dispensable. But if you control it, if you use it strategically, you automatically project respect, interest, and presence. Because in a world where everyone begs for attention, the one who manages it intelligently dominates. 4. Walk with purpose, not with need. Imagine two men walking through the desert. The first one strides forward confidently, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He knows where he is going. His destination is clear in his mind, and every step he takes is a decision, not an accident. He doesn't stop to ask if he's going in the right direction. He doesn't doubt. He doesn't hesitate. He sets the path. The second, on the other hand, moves aimlessly. His steps are erratic, guided by desperation and fatigue. He constantly turns his head, looking for signs, hoping someone will tell him what to do. When he sees someone else moving forward, he follows without thinking. When there's no one around, he stands still, paralyzed by indecision. He doesn't control his destiny, he's waiting for it. One will reach his destination. The other will get lost before finding it. Such is life. Most people don't walk, they wander. They don't have a clear direction. They just react to what the world throws at them. They move out of need, not purpose. Need for approval, need for companionship, need for validation. They're like leaves in the wind, pushed in any direction by circumstances, by others' opinions, by their own insecurity. And when you move like this, others notice. The difference between someone who inspires respect and someone who goes unnoticed is simple. One knows where he's going, and the other is waiting for someone to tell him where to move. When you enter a room aimlessly, with an energy that conveys uncertainty, with an attitude that reflects you're looking for something, attention, validation, companionship, you automatically position yourself at a lower level. not because others say so, but because your own energy screams it. Now imagine the opposite. A man enters who is not looking for anything, who needs nothing. He's not anxious to be accepted. He's not desperate to connect. He's not there to fill a void. He just is, and he is with absolute certainty of who he is and what he wants. He doesn't need to ask for space, he occupies it. He doesn't need to seek glances, he attracts them. Because people feel the weight of someone who walks with purpose. Think of any figure who has left a mark on history, from the great Stoic philosophers to leaders who shaped generations. What distinguished them? Direction. They didn't wait for life to tell them what to do. They decided their own path and moved forward without hesitation. And that's the kind of presence that leaves an impact. The problem is that most don't have that direction because they've never stopped to ask themselves what the hell they want. They spend their life reacting to what others do, adapting to what others expect, instead of defining their own route. And the result is obvious: a diffuse existence, lacking weight, without a solid center to hold it. If you want to be someone who is perceived as valuable, you need to learn to walk with purpose, not with need. That means every step you take must have a reason. I'm not talking about obsessing over every move. I'm talking about acting with conviction, not doing things just for the sake of doing them, just because others do them, just because you're afraid of being left behind. The Stoics taught that internal clarity is the only thing that allows you to move firmly in a chaotic world. Epictetus said, "Don't worry about what you can't control. Take care of what's in your hands." And what's in your hands? Your direction. When someone walks confidently, without asking for permission, without seeking validation, without acting from lack, others perceive him as someone of value. And not because he tries to appear so, but because he simply is. And that's the key. Stop acting with need and start moving with conviction. Don't go places because you feel you should be there so you don't miss out. Go because you want to be there. Don't talk to someone because you need them to accept you. Talk because you have something to say. Don't relate to people out of fear of loneliness. Relate because you truly want to share your time with them. Every step you take should be a reflection of your intention, not your insecurity. The difference between someone who is respected and someone who is ignored is not in what they say, nor in how they dress, nor in how much money they have. It's in their direction, in the energy with which they move, in the weight their presence has when they enter a room. And that weight can't be faked. It's not bought, it's not learned in a course. It's cultivated. And it's cultivated by stopping moving out of need and starting to move by decision. So the next time you feel out of place, that you feel you don't fit in, that you perceive that something doesn't flow in your life, ask yourself, am I walking with purpose or with need? Because that answer changes everything. 5. Don't explain who you are. Show it. Two men walk into a room. One talks non-stop about himself. He lists his achievements, enumerates his titles, exaggerates his stories, as if every word were a desperate attempt to get others to recognize him. The other, on the other hand, says nothing about who he is or why they should pay attention to him. He doesn't need to announce himself. He doesn't need validation. His presence does that. One seeks approval. The other generates it without asking for it. People who constantly try to prove their worth with words are usually the ones who have the least to offer. They explain too much because deep down, they are not convinced of who they are. They believe that if they don't say it out loud, others won't notice. But that's not how it works. Real value is not explained. It is projected. The more you talk to convince others that you are someone, the less credible you become. Trust and respect are not built with speeches or justifications. They are built with presence, with actions, with the confidence of someone who does not need external validation to exist. Look at the people who really command respect. You won't see them fighting for attention. They don't rush to justify their actions or defend their worth. They just do what they do, move with certainty, and let their impact speak for itself. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius did not spend his time explaining why he was a leader. He ruled with actions. Epictetus did not beg for recognition. He spoke with wisdom, and whoever listened understood. Because words can lie, but actions cannot. If you feel that you constantly need to explain who you are, justify your decisions, or seek recognition from others, you've already lost. Value is not asked for, it is imposed. When you stop trying to convince others, that's when you really start to show it. Think of anyone you've admired in life, not for their empty fame or cheap marketing, but for the solidity of their character. You didn't respect them because they told you to, but because you saw something in their behavior, in their way of being in the world, in their ability to act without the need to announce it. When someone has to say, "I'm a man of my word," they're already casting doubt on whether they really are. When someone insists that they are strong, their insecurity gives them away. The one who really is doesn't say it, he shows it. You can talk about discipline, or you can show it with your routine. You can say that you are reliable, or you can be so in every action. You can claim that you don't care about the opinions of others, or you can truly live without worrying about them. Words are cheap. Respect is earned in silence. Whoever needs to explain who they are has already lost the battle. If you ever feel the urge to justify yourself, to prove your worth with words, to give unnecessary explanations, stop. Ask yourself, am I saying this because it's really necessary, or because I want to be seen in a certain way? If the answer is the latter, better save your breath and keep acting. Because in a world full of noise, those who really leave a mark are the ones who don't need to shout. 6. Learn to let go without fear or drama. Imagine someone holding a glass of water with their arm extended. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's just a glass. It doesn't weigh much. But as time goes by, the weight becomes unbearable. The muscles start to burn, the hand trembles, the pain intensifies. If they don't let go, that simple glass becomes an unbearable burden. This is the case with many things in life. Relationships that no longer work, situations that no longer contribute anything, beliefs that were useful at some point, but now only weigh you down. People cling to all of this as if letting go meant losing something important. But in reality, the only thing they're losing is their peace. Those who don't know how to let go end up consumed by what they hold. You see it in people who are still tied to a love that no longer exists, in those who remain in jobs they hate for fear of the unknown, in those who cling to the approval of others even when it costs them their dignity. They keep carrying the glass even though it no longer makes sense, even though the pain is evident, even though they know deep down they should let it go. The weakness is not in losing something, but in not having the courage to let go when necessary. The strongest are not those who never suffer losses, but those who understand that losing is also part of the game. They know when to move forward without looking back, without drama, without excuses. Not because they don't care, but because they understand that those who get stuck in what no longer makes sense stop moving forward. Look at those who beg for love. attention, recognition. Those who cling to someone who clearly no longer wants them there. Those who try to save the unsalvageable just because they are afraid of starting from scratch. They don't inspire respect, only pity, because those who need to hold on to something to feel secure show that their worth depends on it. And the moment something external defines your stability, you stop being your own master. Letting go is not weakness, it's intelligence. It's looking at a situation and saying, "It no longer serves me. I don't need it. I move on." Without excuses, without reproaches, without victimhood. It's understanding that if something has to stay, it will stay without you forcing it. And if it has to go, no effort will stop it. Some will see it as coldness. It's not. It's clarity. It's having the certainty that not everything deserves a fight, that some battles are lost before they begin, and that sometimes the best way to win is to withdraw in time. If you carry something that no longer makes sense, all you achieve is to exhaust your energy and waste your time. Life doesn't wait for those who get stuck in the past. So the next time you feel something weighs on you, ask yourself, is it really worth holding on to this? Or am I just doing it out of fear of letting go? 7. Don't chase. Make them want to follow you. In every human interaction, there are two types of people, those who chase and those who are followed. The difference between both is not in luck or charisma, but in mindset. Those who chase believe they must earn the attention, validation, and interest of others. Those who are followed understand that the real power lies in attracting, not in chasing after. Look at someone who is constantly seeking approval, who insists on being noticed, who strives to fit in. Their energy is one of lack. Everything they do has a hidden purpose: to be accepted, to be loved, to be validated. That need is felt, and when others perceive it, they automatically position them at a lower level, because what is given effortlessly loses value. On the other hand, observe those who seem not to strive, but still manage to make people gravitate around them. They don't beg for attention. They don't try to please everyone. They don't force their presence. They are simply there, with the energy of someone who needs nothing from anyone. And that independence is precisely what makes them attractive. The problem is that most people believe that to have influence over others, to gain respect or interest, they must invest effort in chasing. But the reality is that the more you try to convince someone of your worth, the less they perceive it. It's a simple psychological law. Scarcity becomes valuable. Abundance is ignored. Think of a person who once impressed you. It wasn't the one who insisted on being noticed, but the one who simply was. The one who didn't ask for permission. The one who moved with the certainty that if someone wanted to be in their life, they would come of their own accord. Stop chasing and start building a presence that is impossible to ignore. That means focusing on your own growth instead of seeking acceptance. It means moving with confidence, with an energy that projects that you decide who enters your world and who does not. Don't chase after attention, respect, or recognition. Become someone who generates them effortlessly, because the moment you stop begging and start moving independently, others will notice the difference. And when they do, they will be the ones who will want to follow you. 8. Focus your energy on what truly matters. There are people who live exhausted, but not because they work hard, but because they waste their energy on things that are not worth it. They wear themselves out in useless arguments, in relationships that drain them, in worries that change nothing. They run in circles, convinced that they are moving forward, when in reality, they are just wasting time. Energy is like a bank account. Each day you have a limited amount and you decide what to spend it on. Some invest it in growth, in discipline, in improvement. Others burn it on distractions, on validation, on things that don't bring them closer to anything. And then they wonder why they don't have results, why they feel empty, why their life doesn't change. Whoever does not know how to manage their energy ends up being controlled by anything that steals it. They get irritated by insignificant problems. They obsess over the opinions of others. They spend hours on social networks absorbing garbage that doesn't contribute anything. They lack focus. They lack direction. And someone without direction is doomed to be manipulated by the environment. Look at the people who really achieve things in life. You won't see them wasting time on unnecessary drama, on complaints, on senseless disputes. You won't see them reacting to every provocation or justifying themselves with cheap excuses, because they understand that every ounce of energy they waste on nonsense is an ounce less they can invest in what really matters. The problem is that most people live in reactive mode. They wake up and let the day control them. They respond to every message. They get distracted by anything. They jump from one meaningless activity to another. At the end of the day, they are exhausted, but they haven't built anything. They spent their energy, but they didn't use it. Learn to be strategic with your focus. Before reacting, ask yourself, does this really deserve my attention? Does this bring me closer to what I want? Or is it just stealing my energy? If the answer is not clear, discard it. Not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves your concern. Not everything deserves your time. Focus your energy on what truly builds you. Eliminate what does not add up. And you will see how, when you stop spending your strength on garbage, you suddenly become someone who moves forward effortlessly, while others remain trapped in the same useless routine as always. 9. Master your desires, or they will master you. Everyone wants control, but few understand that real control begins within oneself. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how strong, how charismatic. If you can't control your own impulses, you'll end up being a slave to them, because whoever doesn't master their desires will be dominated by them. Look at those who are trapped in instant gratification. They can't resist distraction, easy pleasure, the constant need for validation. They consume themselves in excesses, in impulses that take them away from their own growth. They don't make decisions, they just react. And when you spend your life reacting, you lose control of your destiny. Uncontrolled desire destroys more lives than any external enemy. People who can't say no to a momentary pleasure, even if it costs them their discipline, their progress, their health. Who fall into repetitive patterns because they don't have the strength to stop themselves. They become puppets of their own impulse, slaves to every passing whim. The problem is not the desire itself. Desiring things is natural. The problem is when desire controls you, instead of you directing it. When you eat without hunger, speak without thinking, buy without needing, seek pleasure without purpose. That's where you lose control. The strongest are not those who have more external power. They are those who can look temptation in the face and say, "You don't control me." They are those who can resist the easy to reach the great. They are those who understand that every time they give in to a useless desire, they are weakening their own will. Look at someone who has mastery over themselves. You won't see them acting on impulse. You won't see them making decisions that harm them just for a moment of pleasure. You won't see them wasting their time on empty distractions, because they know that every desire they submit to is another chain that binds them. If you can't control yourself, you can't control anything. Master your hunger, and you'll never depend on food. Master your desire for validation, and you'll never be a slave to the opinion of others. Master your need for instant gratification, and you'll never be a prisoner of momentary pleasure. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I really want to, or because I don't have the control to stop myself? If the answer is the latter, you know what the next step is. Because in the end, there are only two paths. Either you control your desires, or they control you.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment, "I am Stoic," as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.